Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This time to do a farewell to the Stadia service, I guess. As some of you may or may not know, Google decided to, unsurprisingly shut down the Stadia service due to, I guess, lack of success. And they will be doing so on January 18th of 2023. So in like 2 days, I'm recording this on January 16th. And as some of you guys may know, I was actually a founder of Stadia. I have here my founder controller here that I got on launch. A dark blue controller, very nice looking controller. And yeah, I was for the most part, I think I want to say decently happy with the service. So I want to make a farewell video in which I want to just go over my, I guess, Stadia profile, because this website or web page or whatever, it's going to be taken down pretty soon. So I just want to have like a memento on my channel of what my profile was, the games that I played, and share with you guys some of my impressions of the service as I go through my profile here. But let's just go over my profile and then talk a little bit about my overall thoughts and impressions of Stadia throughout its life cycle as a gaming streaming service, and then go from there. So this was my profile, SNES mapper with a little pug burger here. The little stars here indicated that I was a founding member. The orange or red stars next to my username. So that was pretty cool. You could share your profile, as you guys can see here, view as a public or friends only. A lot of different settings to share your profile and set it up. And these are all the games that I played. These are the friends that I had on Stadia. As you can see, a lot of founding members or were also part of my friends list here. Let's take a look at the games. Some of these games are games that I purchased on the service, and some of them are part of the pro service that I was part of for about a year and a half into the games, I guess, or the services life. And then I decided to cut off the service at one point just because I wasn't playing the service as much as I was hoping to. But here we have FIFA 21, Immortals Phoenix Rising, which was great. I beat this game actually in Stadia and had a wonderful experience playing that game. Madden NFL, Cthulhu Save Christmas, which was a pro game. Outcasters, which is the only Stadia exclusive that so far I think will remain on the graveyard, if you will. It's not going to come out. Unfortunately, the developers have said they have no plans, or no one is willing to fund for the game to be, ported to other services, which is a true shame, because Outcasters was a really fun online competitive type of game that I did a lot of coverage on my channel. Actually, I think I live streamed a couple game sessions, and that game was really fun. Panzer Dragoon Remake, Monster Boy. Some games where, as you guys can see, I just gave it a little try. 6 minutes gameplay time. That's nothing. Some of the classics, Doom, Far Cry, Celeste was another one that. This was my first time playing Celeste, was through Stadia, and then I actually ended up playing in other systems. Orcs Must Die 3, which at one point was a Stadia exclusive. Now the game is available on Steam, and in fact I do own that game on Steam right there. Samurai Showdown was a fantastic game, fighting game. Zombie Army 4, another game that I fully beat on Stadia service. West of Loathing, a very interesting RPG. Super Bomberman Online, another exclusive, if I'm not mistaken. The Crew 2, Serious Sam's Collection, Doom 64. I think we're nearing the end. SteamWorld Quest, that's another great game that I'm going to have to rebuy it, probably on Steam if it's available there, just because I really enjoyed my time with SteamWorld Quest on Stadia, and I'm going to miss that game. Guild, which was another exclusive that thankfully the developers are going to port it to Steam, I believe. So that's a really good news out there. Darksiders Genesis, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and whatnot. So yeah, those are the games that I played on the system. And as you guys can see here, when you click on one of them, for example, let's go through one of my favorite ones that I played here, which is Immortals Phoenix Rising. It gave you kind of like a nice picture of the game there, the total gameplay time that you put in the game, the progression, the overall progression, vaults of Tartarus completed, and total enemies defeated. And then your achievements, the date that you earned them, the tiles, the art in there. Everything was really well laid out in my opinion. And these are some of the achievements that I did not had time to obtain. I'm just gonna click on another one. For example, Outcasters, total games won, total eliminations, total coins banked, things like that. So you guys can see here, then you have your achievements and whatnot. So a very well laid out website, if you will. And of course, when you go to the store section here, I'm going to show you Stadia will wind down on January 18th. So therefore, the Stadia store is now closed. So pretty straightforward. And then this is the homepage, which I just realized they have Stadia's first and final game. So when you click on play it now, it's the Worm game, and apparently this is a game that developers used to when tried out the service. Yeah, it was a game to test Stadia's features right through to 2022. So thanks for playing and for everything. So a nice kind of like last game or hoorah from developers that it's being shared. So I'll probably play this game actually after this video, and yeah, just have it as a goodbye to the service. Playing that game would be a nice thing in my opinion. So yeah, and then another cool thing was the captures sections. Obviously, Stadia had a very easy to use capture feature where allowed you to take pictures and short videos. As you guys can see here, I have some Phoenix Rising footage. Some of the vistas here were pretty fun to use the photo mode or whatever. And then Outcasters, which was a fun favorite of mine, as you guys can see here. This is a recording of Outcasters. Yeah, very fun. Very easy to capture also. So a lot of captures here that I have from different games that I should probably download these actually because they will be lost in time, I guess. So I'll see if I can download. It'll be probably a pain in the butt to do this, but yeah, I have, as you guys can see here, a lot of screen captures and pictures and a whole lot of other pretty cool things. Look at these. These are pretty cool for the crew too. Some photo mode pictures here with the GTI, Volkswagen, Mustang action going on. Just a very beautiful game to take pictures, and play around with. So yeah, another cool feature of Stadia, again, the ability to take screens, and they will automatically be saved under the cloud. So pretty cool feature out there. And then this is my library. These are the games that I actually owned. The Worm game is just automatically included through the developers. But as you guys can see here, FIFA 21, Immortals Phoenix Rising, Madden 21, Doom, Far Cry, Lost Words, which at one point was an indie exclusive for Stadia, hence why I got it, Borderlands 3, Rage 2, Football Manager 2020. Some of these games I didn't really play them, like Borderlands 3, Rage 2. I don't think I even fired them up. They were just sitting in my library. But the cool thing, if there's one thing that you really have to give Google credit, is that they refunded the purchases that were made through Stadia. So I got my money back for all the games that I purchased. I wish I would have known that back when I was very active on Stadia, because I would have bought more games and played more. Think of it as a free rental. You just buy the games, beat them, and then a couple of years later, when the service shuts down, you get your money back. So, and they did the same with the hardware actually. So for people that bought the Founders Edition or additional controllers, as you guys can see here, I have my white controller, which is pretty nice. Google actually refunded the purchases, which is, again, they did not need to do that. That was a great gesture from them. For whatever reason, they decided to do that, and I'm thankful for it. Now, the Pro subscription, the monthly fees that you paid for that, they did not refund that. I was not expecting them for them to do that. Although it would have been great to be refunded the pro services as well, but they did not do that. Just games that you actually bought on the service. So with that being said, I just want to go over some of my general thoughts of the service. I think Stadia was off to a rocky start when it first came out. The service, the number one thing was it was under a lot of heat. First, because the Google was not able to meet the launch date for people that pre-ordered the Founders Edition, including myself. I think I got this like a couple of days later. So this was before COVID, so no excuses for supply shortages and whatnot. It was just a very poor timing or handling of Google. They're not a distribution company, and they don't have like experience distributing things, in my opinion. So a lot of the founders' packages were delayed, and that was a true shame. So that's that, and that a lot of criticisms from the news, the press, and obviously fans that were very upset that they were not able to play their games on day one. The second biggest criticisms upon launch was the lack of games. There were obviously a couple games out there, such as Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I think was one of them, Samurai Showdown, but it was a very limited library selection of games that grew every month. Every month they kept adding games, but it was never enough. Like a lot of the games were kind of older, so there was very little motivation or reasons for, especially like people like me, right? That I favor console gaming. I have a PlayStation, I have a Nintendo Switch, I have Xbox systems. I do have a PC that I also enjoy. So for me, trying out Stadia was more like trying out the novelty of streaming, and I had a good time with it. I'm not gonna lie. No regrets on my Stadia experience. I had a pretty good time with the system, but I can definitely see why the service did not turn out successfully in many ways, and one of them was the library of games was not ample enough. They did the effort, like some of the major AAA releases, such as Cyberpunk 2077, for example, were available on day one, but some others were not available. So the vast majority of AAA releases, obviously they were out on day one on PlayStation, on Xbox, but for Google, they had to put a lot of money. I think developers took advantage of that as well. There were some leaked documents where Capcom, they were asking just like $5 million for like older Resident Evil games to be on the service, which I thought it was pretty insane. But I think developers were abusing, knowing that Google has basically unlimited money, and I guess I don't blame them in a way. But yeah, they were trying to get the most money out of Google, and of course Google had limited funding or budget for that division to bring games into the system. So that was another hurdle that really hurt the system. But the number one thing that really, in my opinion, hurt the Stadia service at launch was the lack of AAA exclusive games. I would have liked to see them release like one or two like major AAA games at release, just to draw people into the service. I know Google like made really big investments to. I don't think they bought any like studios, but they did buy a lot of talent, like talented executive developers and software engineers from studios like EA, Ubisoft. There were a lot of like famous like actual like directors and software engineers at Google, like poached from different studios here and there to bring them in their, what they called it, the Google Studios or whatever, for them to create new AAA games. And unfortunately, they never materialized into anything. I guess Google was very, they didn't have any patience basically for their own service, and that's the main reason why I stopped supporting the service. That's when I decided to quit my Pro subscription. When the second that Google announced, hey, we're not going to have our exclusive games or studios are no longer a thing. We're just going to be releasing games that are out there, existing games from other developers. That to me, for me personally, lost my appeal to the service, because I wanted to see what new games could developers come out from the Google Studios. And Outcaster is like the perfect example. I really, really enjoyed that game. It was a very fun multiplayer title that I think it would have been a really, I mean, it was a nice and fun game. And I think the strategy should have been to release two or three like AAA exclusive games every year, and then have filler titles like Outcasters, for example, to fill in the gaps. You know, titles that are not great, like that are not big or big budgets or anything. So it would have been nice to see that strategy from Google, just to release exclusive games that were, you know, in a way, just filling the gaps, and then have like a major AAA, two or three a year. You know, they have the money, they had the resources, they had the talent. Like, it's not like they didn't do anything about it. They hired the people. They were working on big projects, from what we understand. Obviously, everything is confidential. We will probably never know exactly what they were working on, but they did make the huge investment, and that just never materialized. So, in my opinion, Stadia was a little bit rushed to the market. I think Google should have waited until they had a solid two or three AAA major games exclusive for the system, just to draw more people into it and see, you know, what the experience is like. So that was, in my opinion, another like major point that they hurt themselves with. And of course, you know, the lack of library games, or lack of games overall, was another one that's a major one. And I think another one is just the lack of sympathy of, I guess, gamers are very stubborn in a way. Like, for example, other types of media like TV shows and movies and music, I feel like users of those mediums have drifted like more easily into streaming. Like nowadays, if you go to Best Buy or Walmart, you know, the or Target, whatever, the sections where they sell physical media for movies, TV shows, and music are shrinking. Every time I go there, there's literally less and less media to be sold. Not so much with games. Games are still very popular at being physical, and I'm not saying I wish to see physical media gone, but it's just interesting to see that for whatever reason, gamers are having a tougher time giving up on physical media versus the other types of medias, you know, like TV shows. Everyone watches Netflix these days. Everyone streams. You know, there's less and less cable users, for example. Music, you know, everyone uses Spotify or YouTube Music, Apple Music, whatever. And myself included, I like streaming. You know, when I drive to work, you know, I just stream my favorite music on YouTube, and you know, that's my commute basically. So some interesting things out there that for whatever reason, streaming as a service for gaming did not latch on, and that was Stadia biggest sell point. Obviously, the games were fairly limited. The major AAA releases available on day one were also limited. You know, Cyberpunk was one of the major ones that, you know, got out on day one. The lack of exclusive, you know, that was another point that hurt him. But if we have to talk about the positives of Stadia, the streaming was simply the best, and I have used basically every streaming service out there, from Amazon Luna to GeForce Now, which I'm still a member of GeForce Now, by the way. I'm also a founder member for GeForce Now, which it's great in my opinion. And I also tried xCloud. I also tried PlayStation Now, which is now PlayStation Plus Extra or whatever. So yeah, I've done my fair share of streaming gaming services, and Stadia by far had the best technology. It was a very nice streaming quality that at first it was a little bit sketchy. I remember playing Summer Showdown upon release. The streaming quality was not perfect, but as the service went on in its life cycle, it improved dramatically to the point where when I beat Immortals Phoenix Rising, I couldn't tell really I was playing a streaming service game. It felt and played normally, no input lag on the controller, no drop in quality in terms of the picture on the TV. For the most part, there were maybe like a couple scenes here and there where my Wi-Fi signal maybe was a little bit down, and you could see like the pixelation on the quality. But other than that, for the most part, it was a fantastic experience playing games like Immortals: Phoenix Rising and Zombie Army 4 or whatever, Dead War. That was another one that I put a lot of time in. Buttery smooth, 60 frames per second, great gameplay, great frame rate, and the technology was just simply fantastic. I also feel like Google took too long to link the services to like YouTube streaming. That was a really cool feature that I actually made use of it. I did a couple live streams for Outcasters, but it took them a while. It took them like several months, perhaps to a year, for them to actually implement the live streaming options. And the cool thing was the one where you could, people that were in your live stream could join you as a player. So that was a really, really cool feature. So there were some really cool things that Google came up with. Unfortunately, they were not available upon launch. I think they should have been there at launch. And the fact that, for example, YouTube streaming was missing, that was, in my opinion, like unforgiven, because Google, they own YouTube, so they should have had a solution or worked together to have those things available at launch. But that was not the case, unfortunately, and surprisingly to everyone. But I think that the beauty of streaming is that it worked really well. For example, let's say you are or you were, let's just say, working from for work purposes. You travel, you could go to the hotel, open up your laptop or tablet or phone, and you could resume your Borderlands 3 gameplay from like 2 days ago that we were playing at home easily in your laptop, your tablet, whatever. It worked really well. Or at home, if you were playing games on a TV, and then your family wanted to use that TV, you could just send the signal to the bedroom TV, and you could resume your gameplay easily without any glitches. A very seamless integration. It just worked really, really well. And the other streaming services are just not as good as Stadia in that regard. So the ideas and the technology itself were great. Unfortunately, the support for the library, exclusive games, and major day one releases were just not there to drive enough people into the service. Another thing that I think kind of hurt the service was also when you don't have a whole lot of people, then the online games, for example, they lacked obviously a strong community. So obviously that hurt them in the long run as well. A lot of the online games had a very small online population, which is a shame, and things of that nature. But yeah, I enjoyed the service for the most part. The boiling point for me was when they announced that they were not going to do any. They were shutting down their internal studios. There were no exclusive games being developed for Stadia. That's when I was like, for me personally, that's the reason why I was interested in the service, to see what that unlimited money from Google could produce in terms of games. And unfortunately, that we would never find out or see what the potential was in that regard. But yeah, overall, I think it was an interesting service. It had some interesting ideas that were unfortunately not that well implemented. And yeah, I think I'm gonna do some downloading here of my captures and things like that. I had for the most part, I had a good time with Stadia. And yeah, in my opinion, it will be missed. I think the more competition there's out there, the better. And they really lost a good chance to set a strong foothold on streaming, which in my opinion, I know Stadia is kind of like the example of why gamers are not ready for streaming, but at the same time, I feel like it's inevitable. Like, I think streaming will become the norm at one point or another. I don't know if that's 5 years from now or 10 years from now or 2 years from now, but I feel like eventually gamers will give in. It's happening with digital media. Like, digital sales are, I believe, larger and bigger than physical sales. So I think we're going to see a transition where digital purchases in games will take over, and then at one point streaming will become kind of like the norm. Whether you guys like it or not, I think that's where it's heading, because that's where most people are going to be buying or playing their games. So I'm ready for it. I don't care. As long as I play games. I prefer physical media. Obviously, I prefer having the games installed or whatever. But streaming, I think it's a really good option. It has a lot of benefits, but it also has some cons to it. But yeah, Google Stadia. It was a nice journey. Rest in peace. Stadia. Thanks for the memories. And that's it for now. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all later. Take it easy.